Wagons ho! Hi, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and part number 4 of the Tamiya 1/35 scale M21 half track. In episode 3, we left off with the completion of steps 4 through 7. So, with that, we are ready to move on to step number 8. Step number 8 is the assembly of the front of the vehicle, the radiator grille, and it can be either closed or open. And it's two separate parts. We got B23 is the open one, and B21 is the open one, B22 is the closed. And I think I will do the open one. So that means I need to cut out all these small parts here and glue them to B21. Okay, so here's a case of improvisation. So this is the headlight that comes with the kit. You know what, let me zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. This is the headlight that comes with the kit. You just paint that silver or whatever you're gonna do. In typical fashion, I dropped one. And I have carpet under my feet, and there's no way on God's green earth that I'm gonna find it. So, thankfully, I have a spare parts box, and I have lots of headlight lenses from different kits. Leftover stuff, or ones that I just didn't use them for whatever reason. So I opted to go with those, so it'll look better anyway. The problem is this has a little bit of a shape to the back of it, kind of an angle. And if I just sit it on top of this, it's not going to look right, especially from the side. Not that you'll really be able to see it, but it is a possibility. So, ouch, I decided I would bust into my handy dandy Dremel tool box, and I got this burr right here. And what I'm doing is the inside of this, I'm just boring it out a bit. Not necessary to use the old motor since it's gone anyway. And then I'm going to use the bigger one to kind of smooth out the burrs from this one here. So then I'll take it, see which side goes down, test fit it, and see, how it looks. And then once I'm done, I'll end up with this. Looks much better, and I can just use some this stuff right here, Mr. Masking Sol R, and put some of that on that lens. Once I'm done painting, scrape that off, I got a clear lens. So there you go. You ever run into that situation? There's a alternative. All right, now we're ready to assemble these little pieces. So first, we've got to glue this guard onto the light. Now there's 2 tiny holes and 2 tiny pins. So the trick is getting them together, getting them to stay together while they get glued. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack these together. So I'm going to use a little bit of glue on here, like that. And I'm going to take this part like that. And there you go. That was easy. While those headlights and headlight guards are drying, I'm going to go ahead and take care of the ejector pin marks on the door and the upper part of the back of the vehicle. Whenever I do these, first thing I do is I ascertain if it is recessed, and if so, by how much, or protruding. And then I just clean them up accordingly. Now some of these, like these right here, it's almost as if there's just like a ridge around where this pin pushed these parts out. So I may be able to, as is evidenced here, just hit it with a sander like that, and voila, it's gone. So I don't have to fill it in and then sand it. All I'm doing here is just getting out some of the scratches from that sanding stick. It's a pretty fine sanding stick, but you know. So I just do the same thing here. These are nice flexible sanding sticks, so they're pretty easy to use, easy to manipulate around contours and stuff. And there we go there as well. A little bit more. So I'm going to do that to all these parts, and then when I come back we'll finish putting together the front. Alright, while stuff is drying, I like to keep moving, so I look ahead and see what I can do. So what I've done here is on this door, there was a molded on handle that was just like a flat, you know, bar. So I cut it off with my cutter, sanded it down, then I'm using my one of my drill bits here, and I'm drilling holes so I can replace it with a bit of wire so it looks more like the real deal. So just a little bit of background trivia. The first place I ever heard about even doing this was from Shepard Payne, and one of his books or diorama tip sheets or something like that. So that just goes to show you how far back I go with this stuff. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I've cut a little piece of wire off. I keep rolls of this stuff. Then I'm going to kind of guesstimate here about the width. Kind of line it up there and see what it looks at. It looks pretty good. So I'm holding it. This is a smooth jaw pliers that I got at Hobby Lobby in their jewelry section. They have a lot of good tools, you know, that aren't model specific that work pretty good. And then I just bend it down 90 degrees on both sides like that. And then, whoops, not quite 90 degrees there, dude. It's a little past 90, that's about 91 degrees. One more. Okay, that's pretty good because I can bend it back. All right, so then, now I've got these cutters here. These are some nice Tamiya cutters, but they're a little more, it says for plastic, but I generally don't use it for plastic unless I'm cutting up sprues to throw away or cutting real heavy stuff. But I don't cut anything hard with it. I wouldn't cut steel with it, but copper soft enough that I can cut that. So what I'm doing here is I'm cutting it to size here like this. So then I got myself a nice little handle, and let's see if I have guessed correctly. Oh my goodness, first time. Look at that. Stoked. So then you got like a real deal handle going on. So I'm going to use a little bit of stupor glue here. Let's see, I think I'll use the black just because it gives me a little bit of working time, and it'll kind of fill in the hole because the hole is slightly larger than the wire. So put a little bit right there like that. I need a new bottle of this. I thought I ordered one, but I forgot. So touch that there like that, touch that there like that, and then try and carefully get it to there and there. Boom. Make sure it's 90 degrees, and then we can set that aside to dry, and voila, that's how you make handles. Not like any of you out there don't already know this, but in case somebody's watching that doesn't know, it might be helpful. Alright, so next thing I want to do here is I want to glue this other headlight. I've got the one glued on, just so you can see what it looks like, and it is crooked, so I need to fix that. So I'm going to use some cement here, and I'm going to put it around it. Let it sit for a sec, because that'll soften it up so I can kind of bend it properly into place. Like that. Kaboom. There we go. Alright, so then this one, I'll put it here where it goes. There's like a largish rectangle part that fits in that slot there, so I'm just gonna kind of put it like that. Put some cement both sides. Use my tweezers and make sure it's flush and seated really well, like that. I'll twist this one a little bit. Ooh, that's coming out the back there. There we go. So then we'll push down again, and this one needs to twist a little bit. That's one thing about these old Tamiya kits is well, any old kits really. Some of the holes or the fittings, the fit is a little bit sloppy, so it gives you a little bit of room to kind of position things. So there we go, like that, and well, I don't know why that's not lining up. I think, oh, you know what, well, I don't know. But anyway, there it is. Quick, like I was able to straighten that up, so we're good to go there. All right, so now we'll set that aside to dry, and then we'll check one of the other parts and see if it's ready to go. I got this sanded down, so now I can glue these other parts on. So the door goes this way, and it's got these two little hinge bits there that fit. Whoops. Like that. Sorry. You got some hinges there, and then these little latch things there. So we got that. Okay, make sure that's all straight and lined up. And hit it with some of the old cemento. And get the hinges. Then these latches there. And then I want to make sure this doesn't come out, because I'm gonna have to sand the top of this. So I want to make sure that it's nice and firmly affixed. Okay, everything's all bottomed out. So we got that. Then we've got these here, and this part here fits right in there like that. So I just set it in place, and then hit it with the cement there and there. Make sure that's pressed down. Like that. So that takes care of everything in step 8. So now we can move on to this. And that I'm going to do things a little bit different because I'm going to have to do a little bit of painting before assembly. Complete assembly, I should say. So let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so now I'm going to glue this thing, start gluing the cab together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this side here, and what I want to do is I want to make sure things are aligned properly. So I'm going to do one side at a time, and the only thing I'm going to glue to start with is the front. Now you got to make sure that this is slid back. This acts as a stop right up against this part here. Okay, you don't want it up like that because it's slid up too far, so you want to make sure it's back like that, and you want to make sure that this is sitting flush up against that fender and on that bottom plate right there. So what I'm going to do, I've got it in place there, and I'm going to hit it with some cement right there, and then just make sure it's pressed up against there really good, because I want this thing to be aligned. I don't want to have to be doing any tweaking and heavy duty twisting and post cement surgery. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that part dry really good, and then I'm going to pop over to the other side. All right, both sides are glued in, and next thing I want to do is glue the engine cover on. And I'm going to do it one side at a time. So I've got this side lined up. Oops, maybe. Can't push it too hard. Sure it's lined up in the front and along the edges here. Hit it with some cement. Oh man. There. And there. Make sure it's nice and lined up. Hold it for a minute. I'll let that set up good, then I'll do the other side. And one thing to remember is it's not necessary to get this seam perfectly closed up. I mean, it actually might be preferable to have the seam right here showing, especially right here. But this stuff is like riveted together, and this right here, you can see these little bolt heads. Those are hinges, because this thing, when it was opened like this. So that seam line does not need to be completely gone. Okay, I got the other side glued. I glued the what do you call that thing? Dashboard in. So now I'm going to glue the windshield frame in. Make sure it's lined up. That. And And then I'm going to cut all of the levers and stuff and get those glued in. And let's put these parts in. So first I'm going to put the steering column in. There's a hole here. Whoops. It's angled. Angle faces down, goes there, and then this little flange or flange in the vulgar goes right between the two little pins on the dashing board, instrument panel, control surface, whatever you want to call it. So let's see, so we've got, let's start with the shifter, the shifting stick, or the gear shift, depending on how proper you want to be. That goes right there. So what I'm going to have to do, now it might have been easier to do this before I did the rest, but you know, sometimes I just got to do things the hard way. So I'm going to put a little bit of cement in there. Just to tack it in like that. Make sure it's pushed down. And then put a little bit more like that. Let's see, what's next? Let's go ahead and do this here. I think these are the transfer case controls, or you know, maybe the what you call winch controls. I don't know what this is. If you know, why don't you hit me to that information, because I'd really like to know. And the slot in which they fit is kind of, it's rectangular, so I put it to the left. I don't know if that's right or not, but it's in there what you call educated guesses. Alright, so there's that. Then let's put this thing here. I really do feel like a dork not knowing what all this stuff is, but I've never owned or driven one of these vehicles, so my knowledge is limited. And then this, which I'm gonna assume is the parking / e-brake, that was commonly used when they had races and stuff like that. They would use this whilst drifting, you know, interregimental automotive competitions. All right, so those are all of those control bits. So the next thing is to glue this into place, the Pioneer tools, and the fuel can on this side. So I think I'll do the fuel cans real quick and show you how I do those. It's quite simple, actually. Just take the two halves, put it together, take some extra thin, put it all the way around. And just for the record, these aren't the greatest fuel cans, but I'm not going to crack out any of my spares because I'd have to fabricate some holders, and I really don't want to do that. I'm sure somebody makes like photo etch set that would include stuff like that. Yep, just smash them together and then we'll let those dry really good, and then I can, how do you say, clean them up. So I'll move right on into the Pioneer tools. We've got the sledgehammer first, and then the shovel. Set it in place, and a little touch of cement there, and there. I like to paint tools for the most part in situ. Makes it a little bit easier for me anyway, because I'm not having to bumble around with it. But I have done it, you know. I have painted them off the vehicle as well. Just depends. Depends on what I'm feeling. Okay, and then do the same thing here. That there and that there. Touch of cement. Touch of cement. And there's that. Then it's the front. Okay, so we'll just line that up there. Make sure it's lined up on the bottom. Hit it with some of the old Dr. Cemento. Looks pretty good. Okay, let that dry, and that pretty much takes care of step number 9. Then we move on to step 10, but before that, I am going to, no, I'm not. So I'll have to clean these up and glue those on. So I'll do that off camera because that's not going to be very difficult. All right, next part, I need to assemble all of the rear deck, which is step 10. So the first thing is this little part here, C8. It fits here and has to be put on first because this goes over top of it. So I just need to make sure that is firmly seated in place. Put some glue on it, like that. And then we can put this in place. Now, there's a couple of guides here and here. This one here has a notch that fits around that. And then the front. Theoretically, there we go, pops into place like that. Yeah, that keeps it from sliding side to side, because this one here, this part is shaped like that and fits around that little edge. I hate using all these crazy terminology, but All right, so let's get that glued. Just like that. Spin that baby around like that, and glue this end as well. Like that. So I'm going to push that down. Then we can move on to these other parts. Alright, apologies for getting off camera. As I've mentioned a couple of times, I'm trying to get used to my new camera setup, positioning, and I keep getting too far down, especially in the zoom mode. So, what you couldn't see is there's a spot underneath this deck here that corresponds with a part on this lower part. So it lines up, that way you don't have it too far one side or the other. So the next part, I need to glue on some of these smaller stuff. Some of the smaller stuff. C24, this piece here goes right here. There's 2 pins, 2 holes. And it is really hard to line these up for some reason. Good night, there we go. Man. Glue it on both sides because it does not really, for having 2 pins and 2 holes, it's not a very positive connection. There we go. All right, then the mortar tube base plate. Now I can only go one way because it's got this rectangular tab, fits in the corresponding hole like that. A little cement there like that. Wow, that just did not stick. Interesting. So let's try it a different way. Hit it on the sides. Part of the problem is there's a hinge down here that's interfering with one corner. And it does not want to cooperate. Alright, that's better. So let's throw a little cement down there. Alright. Okay, and the only other parts are the seat backs, the radio set, and the machine gun pintle that goes right there. Those parts I'm going to save because what I want to do is I want to get this interior here, all of this, and these parts primed and painted with the base color before I start assembling and everything. And I can't really do that until these cure up, these push ejector pin marks. So I need to let those cure, then I can sand those smooth, and those will be ready. So I'm gonna have to set this aside for a bit while I wait for all that to dry. Since I'm gonna be painting some of that stuff, I think I'm gonna skip ahead here and get some other stuff prepped for painting, like the seats for the cab and get the doors ready. Anything basically that's going on the interior, I think I'm going to get all that prepped. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these chair parts off, and we'll get those glued together, and we should be pretty close to being ready to paint that stuff. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to get this door here. This is the driver's side door, and my plan is to do as the instructions show and cut the upper portion and flap it down so you can actually see the driver from the side as well. So to do that, I am using a scriber that I use for scribing panel lines in aircraft, and I am just, there's already a line in here, and you can do both sides, but I'm only doing the one, and I'm just scribing through. It's better than trying to cut it because this seems to give a straighter cut. And for me, it's more controlled. And as you can see, the plastic right here is starting to turn white because it's getting ready to cut through all the way. Yeah, it's almost all the way through. As a matter of fact, I could just bend it over. I think I'll score this side a little bit more. And then, bink, just like that, and the hinges are still attached, which is pretty groovy. And I will sand the edge, square it off. And to give it a little bit of strength, there's a couple of spots in here where it contacts, the upper part contacts the lower part. So I'm going to glue that like that. That way I don't have to worry about it coming apart. Clean up the burrs like that. And then lay something not too heavy on it because I don't want to pop those hinges apart. And just let it dry. While that is drying, I'll go ahead and glue this door on like this. Kind of jumping ahead here because I'm not actually supposed to glue that door on until step 13, but I want to paint it all at the same time, the interior. So do it like that. Okay, well, I got the small parts and these painted, the interiors. So that pretty much concludes step number 10. Ready to move on to step 11, which is connecting the front to the back and a bunch of the small parts. So with that, we're going to call this part finished. And so ends part number 4 of the Tamiya 1/35 scale M21 half track. So next time we come back, we'll jump on step number 11 and continue working our way down, and we might be able to get the rest of the assembly completed, but we'll see. So anyway, as always, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. If you have any hints, tips, concerns, questions, etc., put them in the comments section down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I will see you all down the road a ways.